Darius, and welcome to the Ronnie Show. Well, as you saw, we've got a couple of different topics to cover here. Usually it's just one, but I forgot something on Monday night's episode, which I felt like was very important to note. So the title of Monday night's episode was Rocky Rousseau and Darius Andres Are Idiots. However, I forgot to talk about how Darius was an idiot. So we're going to get to that here in a second. Plus, here this afternoon, or this evening, like I said, whenever you're viewing this, we will also be talking about and making predictions on March Madness this year. I've got the perfect bracket, and I'm going to showcase it to all of you. So, let's get the first topic out of the way before, I screw that up, obviously, and absolutely forget it. So, Darius Andres. He is a fan of the Fargo Force. Now that by itself would seem, normal, right? However, though, last season there was this guy named Ron. I forgot what his last name. I think it was Gilmore. Ron Gilmore was his name. And every time Sioux City would lose badly or something like that, he would always go off and saying, smart crap. Well, granted, Fargo was the best team in the league last season. That, was without a doubt, let's be honest here. And they were like 20 points above us. So it wasn't like we weren't going to catch them. We'll just say that. We were just fighting to get a bye into round number 2. That's all we were really fighting for. And of course, he decided to be a smartass, so that was nothing new. Well, once we got to the postseason and towards the Clark Cup finals, he all of a sudden just disappeared. Out of the middle of nowhere, he just all of a sudden disappeared. Allegedly, he was going on a fishing trip. Because, this was around the time when Sioux City played Fargo in round number 3 to potentially go into the Clark Cup final. And we lost game 1 and we had won game 2. And we had won game 3. So all of a sudden during that time, he kind of went silent. And his excuse was, I went up on a fishing trip and I still paid attention to the games. So, of course, everybody called him out on it, as they should have. And then, of course, when we lost the final 2 games and got eliminated, of course, he decided to show back up again. So, yeah, a closet idiot, we'll just tell you that. Well, we got a new Fargo Force fan. His name is Darius Andres. He all of a sudden just shows up out of the middle of nowhere. It was unadvised, we'll just say that. And he starts, making fun of us. For, whenever we would lose or whatever. And he'd have some smart-ass remark as like, oh, Sioux City is this and that and the other thing. While Fargo had lost to like a Lincoln or a Sioux Falls or a Waterloo type team. They almost lost to Omaha at one point, but barely snuck it out. In fact, twice. 2 times Fargo played Omaha this year. They got sent to overtime, and Fargo barely pulled it off. But yet he's complaining about Sioux City losing to like a Lincoln type team. And it's like, bro, focus on your own team. You almost lost to the worst team, one of the worst teams in league history, and you're complaining about us, because why not, right? Like, focus on your own team. That's all I gotta say about that one. I mean, holy smokes. Oh my. And then he finally broke the nail in the coffin, or however you say that, and said that 25% of our points that have counted towards the standings this year have gone to Sioux City because we beat Omaha. Now, that might be true. We did sweep all 7 games away from them. That is true. However, it was only, I did the math, and I'm going to pull it up right now. So I had nothing to do in my study hall the other day, and so I wanted to see whether or not he was actually correct or not. Whether it was 25%. So we're going to do a little exposure right now. Here we go. So, oh, my pencil's in it. Whoops. So, Sioux City, because, you know, obviously 7 wins. Each win is worth 2 points. So that's 14. We've got 59 points right now. So that equals 23.7%. He was off by a whole percent. Lower, too. He went, like I said, he always tries to be a smartass, so that's why he decided to do that. However, Fargo, they also played Omaha 7 times this year, and 12 out of the 56 points, or 21.4%, of their points came from Omaha. Now, if Fargo, I was going to say, if Omaha had lost to Fargo, he probably would have made some dumbass comment about Sioux City, because of course he would have. But gosh, just... Oh wait, no, they've only played them 6 times. I think they still play them 1 more time. Apologies for that. Wait, no, that might be... Either way, he's an idiot. That's all I gotta say about that. So, yeah. Well, we still got a lot of show to get to, so that's kind of my 2 cents on him. And we know once the playoffs come around, you know, he's obviously going to be a smartass. So wait until then. We'll just say that. Wait until then. Plus, we play them Saturday night, so you know there's obviously going to be something going on with him Saturday night too. So yeah, we'll see what happens. All right, coming up next, the thing you've been waiting for. We're going to be making March Madness predictions right after this. Don't go anywhere. Welcome back, everybody, to the Ronnie Show. So, while we were filming the last part of our show, the league has now announced the playoff format for this season, and whoopee, it's nothing different from the last couple of years. So, the first round will be the best, you know, 2 out of 3. That doesn't change. And then the conference semifinals, this is where they always seem to change it every year for some reason. I don't know why, but they just always do. Because it was a best of 3, and then it was a best of 5, and I don't think the league knew what they were trying to do, so now it's just a best of 5. However, though, the best of 3, April 14th to the 17th, that's nothing new. However, the conference semifinals will start April 18th. So... at the most, Sioux City will get 2 days of rest, depending on when their first round series ends, if they make it to the semifinals, which they definitely will if we play Fargo, and they might have a little bit of trouble if we play Tri-City. That's all I say, because, well, really, we could end up in 6th place, too. I mean, the seeding is just so craziness right now, although Waterloo has... Wait, no, forget Waterloo. We have 59 points, so we're barely holding on the 4th. Fargo has 58 points, and they're barely holding on to 5th. And then Tri-City, they're down to like 54 or something like that. Yeah, 54. So I think I think Tri-City, they're not really going to change their playoff seeding. It's or where they are in the standings. I think it's just going to be a battle between 4th and 5th place for us. So yeah, because you know the margin of victory, or the margin is just so tight that it's ooh. So, yeah, well, in terms of the playoff picture right now, Sioux City, they just need 2 points. So if they win Saturday night, they clinch a playoff spot. If Des Moines loses, I think they play Friday night. Yes, if they can somehow lose to Omaha, then we also clinch a playoff spot. So, hey, we might not even need to play the game Saturday night in order to clinch, although that was just kind of a stupid statement I just said. But it just goes to show that things are going to get interesting. And I know I say that all the time. I know, I always say that. I'm trying to stop myself from saying that so many times, but, you know, especially once you get around this point in March. And you've got standings as tight as they are, not only in the West, but also in the East, you know. Because in the East, it's the same deal between second, third, and fourth place teams. Like Madison, tied for second with 70 points. Muskegon, tied in third with 70 points. Youngstown in fourth with 69 points. Either one of them could get the bye. So from round one. So it's really a tight race. So that was your little Musketeer playoff update. When we come back, we will officially get into the bracket, but I just saw that and I thought I had to put that out there. But for sure, we will get to the bracket and all of my predictions right after this. Don't go anywhere. Welcome back, everybody. It is now time to make our March Madness predictions for 2025. This will be the third year that RVN is covering March Madness, and I'm hoping, year by year, we keep on getting bigger and bigger and bigger and better. So hopefully this year, that will be the case. So this is only half the bracket. As you know, Selection Sunday was this past Sunday, and we revealed the bracket to all of you on the broadcast. So, between Sioux City and Omaha, because, Omaha was trying to come back, so we had really nothing else to do. No, that's obviously not what happened. They didn't mount that comeback until the 3rd, and by then the bracket was already released. So anyway, let's get to our predictions now. The first four games have already been played as of the filming of this show. And the final 2 haven't been played yet. So it's not really going to influence my picks, to be quite honest with you, because I don't think first 4 teams ever make it very far, so it shouldn't really affect me in the long run. The long run. There we go. I got it. So we're going to start off with the South. We'll do Auburn versus Alabama State. Obviously Auburn. Jeez Louise. The SEC has just been so dominant this year that I think they kind of have to win. Louisville versus Creighton. This is going to be an interesting matchup for sure. 8 versus 9. Almost kind of like a toss-up although really seedings, records, honestly, once the game tips off, all that kind of gets thrown out the window, to be quite honest with you. At least I think personally. So, but I am going to go with Creighton. Michigan versus UC San Diego. I've got Michigan winning this one. Hopefully, their Big Ten tournament was pretty darn good. So, Texas A&M versus Yale. I'm going to go Texas A&M. Like I said, SEC, been dominant all year long, so we'll go with them. Mississippi versus North Carolina. Well, after the way last night went, I want to go with North Carolina because them and San Diego State had the same record, but I'm going to stay with Ole Miss just to be safe. Iowa State versus Lipscomb. Now, this was going to be my upset in the South. I was going to go Lipscomb for that one, but I decided right before I went on to film this that I'm gonna switch my vote and I'm gonna go with Iowa State. So, yeah, hopefully that doesn't bite me in the behind later on. But hey, you never know. We'll see. Marquette versus New Mexico. I'm gonna go with Marquette for this one. Michigan State versus Bryant. I am going to go with Michigan State here. I think that might be playing it safe a little bit. Well, all these picks kind of are, but that's okay. So yeah, usually I like to have an upset in each division of the bracket, but we have nothing in the South because I got rid of my Lipscomb pick, so that's all right, though. Auburn versus Creighton in round 2. We're going to go with Auburn. Michigan versus Texas A&M. We're going to go with... Let's see. I've got Michigan written down here. I'm still going to go with Michigan. Like, I've got my predictions written down on my piece of paper, but I could change them during this. So, I haven't fully submitted it yet. I mean, once I submit it this time, it's done. I'm not going back and changing it because I've changed it like 5 times already. Although I could create a new bracket, but I don't know. I feel confident in this one. So, Ole Miss versus Iowa State. I've got Ole Miss moving on, but I want to go with Iowa State so bad, but they have looked rough at points during this season. So, I don't know, to be honest with you. I'm going to go with Iowa State, and you know what? If they lose, so beat it. Marquette and Michigan State. I'm going to go with Michigan State for this one. So, this will be the Sweet 16 round. Auburn versus Michigan. I'm going to go with Auburn, of course. And then Iowa State versus Michigan State. Michigan State's going to overtake. This is where Iowa State, if they make it this far, is going to fall, and that'll be to Tom Izzo's Michigan State. So it's going to be Auburn and Michigan State in the Elite Eight, and I am picking Auburn to move on. Alrighty, so there's the South division of the bracket. We are going to go with the East side. So it's Duke between the winner of American and Mount St. Mary's. Like I said, it won't really change anything no matter who fills that 16th seed. So I'm going to go with Duke for that one. Mississippi State and Baylor. I'm going to go with Baylor for this one. So I picked 2 9 seeds already. Let's see if that's going to be a good decision come tomorrow. Oregon versus Liberty. I'm going to go with Oregon for this one. Arizona versus Akron. I'm going to go with Arizona, because why wouldn't I? BYU and VCU. BYU, of course. Go Mormons. No, not really, to be quite honest with you. Okay, that's going to open up a whole nother can of worms now. Wisconsin versus Montana. We're going to go with Wisconsin for that one. St. Mary's and Vanderbilt. Well, I guess this is kind of an upset, 10-7, but Vanderbilt, I mean, see, that's the thing, when you've got, during the regular season of college basketball, you've got, maybe an unranked team beating a 15th ranked team. However, their records, the team that's unranked has like 2 less wins than the 15th ranked team. It's always considered, it's an upset. It's an upset. It's an upset. No, not really. It really is not. I mean, especially in March Madness, like if a 16 seed were to beat the number 1 seed and they had similar records and they call that an upset, no, snap out of it. It's really not. So that's just my opinion on upsets. Alabama versus Robert Morris. Alabama, of course. All right, so Duke versus Baylor. We're going to go with Duke, obviously. This has probably been their best year since Coach K's retirement. Oregon versus Arizona, at least in my opinion. I'm going to go with Arizona, former Pac-12 teams. Yeah, that's going to be fun. Let's see. And then BYU versus Wisconsin. I'm going to go with BYU for this one. I think they're going to, well, like I said, upset Wisconsin, but it's really not, honestly, an upset. And then Vanderbilt versus Alabama. Alabama, of course. And then we'll go Duke over Arizona, and then Alabama over BYU, and Duke is going to beat Alabama in the Elite Eight. So that is what the bracket looks like so far in terms of the Final Four. We're going to take a break, and when we come back, we're going to do the final 2 divisions right after this. Don't go anywhere. And we're also going to crown a winner, too. Welcome back, everybody. So it is now time to do the last 2 divisions, the West and the Midwest. So here we go. Let's get started. Plus, we will also crown a winner. So here we go. Florida versus Norfolk State. I'm going to go Florida, obviously. UConn versus Oklahoma. I got to flip my page to the other side because I don't have all these picks memorized. I'm going to go Oklahoma. The UConn, they've not had the best of years, but they haven't really had the worst of years either. But I think Oklahoma's still going to take it to UConn. Now, actually, I'm going to switch that. I'm going to go UConn. I'm going to go UConn. I have Oklahoma written down on my sheet, but it might not matter here in a second. I'll tell you why. Memphis versus Colorado State. This is my one upset, quote unquote, in the West. Colorado State. Maryland versus Grand Canyon. Well, my cousin goes to Grand Canyon. As much as I want to go with them, they're going to get blown to smithereens by Maryland. So, sorry, cuz. Drake versus Missouri. Now, Drake, of course, is in the state of Iowa. And I like Drake more than I do Iowa State. So we're going to go with Drake. They're going to be the dark horse, I think. Texas Tech versus NC Wilmington. There we go. Texas Tech still with the win on that one. All right, Arkansas versus Kansas. Arkansas. There, Kansas versus Arkansas. There you go. Although I've read like you can go to jail if you pronounce it like that in Arkansas. Well, come and get me. Anyway, St. John's versus UNO, University of Nebraska, Omaha. We know it as UNO here in Sioux City, Iowa. So, but St. John's, they're just too good. So St. John's is going to win that. Florida versus UConn. I'm taking Florida. I think no matter whether UConn or Oklahoma makes the second round, Florida, they're going to get beaten by Florida. That's all I'm going to say. Colorado State versus Maryland. Excuse me. I've got Maryland moving on here. Drake versus Texas Tech. I've got Drake winning this one. I think, I think they can pull it off. I think Drake, they're going to go far in this tournament. At least I hope they do, for my bracket at least. Arkansas versus St. John's. I'm going to go with St. John's. And then we've got Florida versus Maryland in the Sweet 16. I'm going to go Florida, of course. And then Drake versus St. John's. St. John's, that's where Drake's finally going to fall. So it's 1 versus 2. Okay. I'm going to go with Florida, but it's going to be a really close game in the Elite Eight. So there we've got an all SEC Final Four for one at least. So we'll see. Houston versus SIU Edwardsville. We'll go with Houston. We're now in the Midwest section. Gonzaga versus Georgia. I'm going with Georgia for this one. Clemson versus McNeese. I'm going with McNeese. This will be my upset in the Midwest. Hopefully, I will see. Purdue versus High Point. I'm going with Purdue, obviously. And then Illinois is going to play the winner of either Texas or Xavier. I don't think it'll matter which team it is. I'm going with Illinois. Kentucky versus Troy. I'm going with Kentucky. Oh, whoops, that's not the right one. Although, well, yeah, that's definitely the wrong one because I picked Utah State over UCLA. So we'll see. And then Tennessee's going to beat Wofford. Houston over Georgia. Oh, shoot, that's not what I want to do. I am going to pick Purdue, because why wouldn't I? And then Illinois versus Kentucky is going to be interesting. I'm going with Kentucky. And then Utah State, they're going to get clobbered by Tennessee. So, Houston versus Purdue. I'm going with Purdue. I think they're going to upset Houston. If both these teams even make it that far. You never know. We'll see. Then Kentucky versus Tennessee. I'm going with Kentucky, and Purdue, they're going to get the win, I think. So, here is what the Final Four looks like. Auburn versus Florida. I am going with Florida. Duke versus Purdue. I'm going Purdue. So, the winner of March Madness 2025 will be, drum roll please. I don't have an actual drum here, so Florida. Yes, Florida, although it's going to be a really close game. 70-69. I always guess something for the predicted score, and I'm always way off, and I honestly could really care less, to be quite honest. There. Save bracket. There we go. So that is my March Madness bracket of 2025. We're going to take a break, and we're going to wrap it up right after this. Don't go anywhere. Welcome back, everybody. Well, thank you all so much for joining us here tonight. Now, we will have, like I said, March Madness coverage here, right here on RVN. We will have one game tomorrow night. We'll be on the air for that at 9:15 p.m. Eastern Time, maybe a little bit later, depending on how the first game goes. I believe it's the Oklahoma and UConn game. That's what game we're going to be covering tomorrow night. And then Friday, we're going to cover one game in the afternoon, one game at night. And then Saturday, we're going to do 2 night games as well as the Sioux City and Fargo matchup, because it'll be taking place during that. And then Sunday, not sure on Sunday yet, but of course we'll have more info on Sunday here later on by the end of the weekend. I'll see you all next time. Bye bye.